Welcome, 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 my friends. We have an incredible show today. We're going to be talking about, is it awesome to hit rock bottom and why it might be, why it might not be. We're going to get into it. We're going to have a lot of fun, so stay with me.
Steve Spiro, you're a mentor, you're a consultant, you're a business owner, but most importantly, you're a host of your own show and you're also a master connector.
Steve Spiro is one of my idols, and I love listening to everything that he does. He's such a dynamic individual.
Some of the topics I really enjoy speaking on is how to really connect, whether it be in person or through social media. I love to lead with my weaknesses. I lead with, my vulnerabilities. It's fine because I'm okay with who I am. Number two is how to go from being inward focused, self-focused, into others focused. Being willing to give and go out there and look to serve. That will attract the right things. Another one is on leveraging LinkedIn to really grow your business. You could reach a lot more people. You could broadcast a message to people that actually consented to want to know you. And then lastly, overcoming big obstacles. I love sharing. I was a shy, introverted kid, picked on, bullied, learning disabled, dyslexic, really in a dark place. I was really in a box, in a shell, and I've been able to break out of that box. And so I love being able to inspire people and really help them. So the Master Connector was born. The world is my networking event, right? I meet people all the time. My goal is to meet 3 strangers every single day.
Steve is open to meeting you. You should set up a face-to-face with Steve. One little conversation can really change your life. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Yolanda, hello to you as well. If you're in the comments, if you're watching right now, make sure you get into the comments. Part of the fun of a live show like this is the interactive dialogue, networking with each other. Make sure you're connecting with Steve and I. Make sure you're connecting with our special guest, Dana Knowles, today. We're going to get into this, right? And I have some familiarity with some rock bottom kind of concepts because during the pandemic, my business, which was not prepared for a total shutdown of social, hit rock bottom, right? Its lowest point in 11 years, less income. At one point, no income coming in for a great series of months in a row. And so one of the nice things that came out of that was a realization, hey, we got to play with some of these business models. There's something that we need to do here to make sure the business comes stronger out of this than we came into this. And so there's a lot of impetus. Stay with us. We're going to go in a lot of different directions with this rock bottom topic today. Steve, let's get it started off right here. Get us into
Absolutely. This. Very, very cool. And one of those things that as a result of that, Cameron, why you and I started to collaborate on this show together. So it's been amazing. And I appreciate all you do, sir. Yeah, absolutely. So listen, it's Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct here. And I want to talk to you about Carl Jung and what he said. He said, I'm not what happened to me. I am the choice. I am what I choose to become. Okay. Great quote. And, we're going to talk about kind of what happens to you and also, but more importantly, how you react to it. Right. And it's interesting as we were kind of preparing for this show, I like to just Google. I just hit Google and see what comes up. And some of the things that came up when I hit Google was, what happens when you hit rock bottom? Another question was, do you need to hit rock bottom? That's an interesting one to ponder, right? How do you know if you hit rock bottom? That's a good one. What does the saying hit rock bottom actually mean? And listen, all of these we're going to cover and then some. But most importantly, our mission on this show is to be the light. We're going to inspire you and to let you know that that if you are at rock bottom or you're afraid to hit rock bottom, listen, it's actually a good thing, and you'll see why. And we want you to understand that how hitting rock bottom can really, honestly, shape you and maybe even help you to become the better version of what you were hoping to become. So I'm excited. I'm going to have an amazing show. We've got incredible guests that I know Cameron is going to do his amazing intro with. But if you're ready for Cameron to introduce Dana, I would like you to type in hashtag GoDana, GODANA. And we're going to get Cameron on the screen here, and he's going to introduce Dana. So you are the man there, sir.
So Dana Knowles In Dana Knowles' book, she shares valuable lessons that Dana has learned over the past 24 years. She has found peace with herself and the world she lives in. Aren't we all striving for that? Dana Knowles believes in not shutting the door on our past, but sharing the painful parts of our lives and our experiences so we can be of use to others. From the age of 14 to 34, Dana lived a life infused with drugs, alcohol, exotic dancing, and prostitution. Finally becoming homeless, she realized she was at the jumping off place, not being able to live with alcohol and drugs, but also not being able to live without it. Quit or die were the only two choices. Then she had her moment of clarity. She began to create a new life for herself, to live the life she felt she was always meant to live. She's now a business owner, speaker, successful inventor, first lady of Martinsburg, West Virginia, the director of inventor relations at InventRight, a company that teaches inventors how to license their ideas, and author of the PAUSE, P-A-U-S-E method. Please welcome to the show, the driven, the daring Dana Knowles.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here. Super excited to share what hitting rock bottom means to me.
That's amazing. Listen, and we got all these people checking in. We want to thank everybody for being here. Alan Shaw, Wade and April Hawk, thank you for being here. The Hawks, right? Heidi Brescher, Alexis, everybody's saying go Dana in the comments here. Yolanda Chin, our loyal and dedicated community member. We appreciate you. Dr. Jennifer Marquez, Dana, you're amazing. Look at you go. So let's get it started off. Get us started into the conversation, Steve.
Absolutely. And it's going to be an incredible one here. So we're very excited. Appreciate everyone being on, and make sure you're connecting with each other. Get in the comments. We're the Master Connector Show, right? So you want to get in there, connect with each other as we're diving into some amazing story and topic. And on that note, what we're about. We're about being authentic. We're about stories. So if you're ready, we'd like you to type in #story right now. Our amazing community, our amazing folks. And listen, don't be a LinkedIn lurker, right? We want you to participate. At least type in #story, okay? We don't need you to say anything else, but just get involved with that. And we'd love to want to just see your name, and we want to know that you're with us. But so listen, Dana, I was blown away when you and I had a chance to connect. And we connected through LinkedIn, go figure,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, and so you told me some amazing stuff about what you've gone through. And so we'd like to hear, in your own words, the short version, right? Because we have about 5 or 6 or 7 topics to cover here today. Right. But short version of your journey of life on the street to the success that you have today, if you can.
Yeah, I can give you the short version. The long version is more exciting, but I can give you the short version. I came from a really good family. There was no drugs or alcohol in my family, but I was molested at the age of 12, and shortly after that, I found alcohol numbed the pain, the shame, the guilt, and it just spiraled from then to getting thrown out of school and pregnant early to my first abusive husband. And then I found the life of exotic dancing, which was very exciting. I could drink and drug as much as I want. And through the years, I married another alcoholic and bounced around from place to place to place. And, there's a point in a heavy drinkers world where they cross over the line. And I don't know when that happened. I don't know what year it was, how old I was, but I crossed over the line and couldn't get back. And as much as I wanted to stop the life I was living, I just couldn't. And after I was at the age of 35, and I had my moment of clarity that I just couldn't live like this anymore. And it was either blow my brains out or quit. But how do you quit? So I checked myself into a drug and alcohol treatment center. I was there for 21 days, and then I was in a homeless shelter, and I just started to recreate my life from there. So that's the short version. If you want the longer version, the book, in my book, I tell my long version of the story.
That's amazing. That's great. And yeah, definitely get her book for sure. And it's amazing what you've come through. And it's interesting. I think there's a lot of misperceptions, right? Where you have, depending upon your background, if you came with from a healthy, family, that means you're going to be healthy in terms of your habits and your, the things, your lifestyle, but not always, right? You're an example of that, right? And sometimes it could take one thing that just, pushes you over the edge. And it sounds like, in your case, the molestation that happened to you, unfortunately did that. So amazing. But we're so happy that you're here with us today, and you're on a completely different path. And we're here to talk about how you move forward. And so here's a question for you. And I'd like our community to type in, if you're ready, type in the word #why, WHY. Okay. We would love you, Dana, to tell us why our past doesn't have to dictate our future.
Oh, I love this question. And I think too many of us look at our past and we think that our past happened to us. But I've come to believe that my past happened for me, not to me. So I have a choice of which way do I want to look at it. Do I want to look at it as this, oh, poor me, I was molested and I was drugs and alcohol and prostitution and stripping and I've been married 4 times. That's a whole nother story. But and I always say the last one, I've been married to my last husband for 22 years. He's the good one. The other ones weren't so good. But I started to look at my life and forgive myself for everything, all the immoral, disgusting, crazy things that I was doing, and reprogramming my mind. I started that shortly after I got sober. I went through a lot of therapy. Of course, I'm in a 12-step program to help me stay on track. And actually, I just celebrated 25 years of recovery on Monday, on Labor Day. So that's a pretty big milestone.
That's amazing. Thank you.
And
Congratulations.
Yeah, and so the why, I just really stopped looking at my life and stopped feeling so sorry for myself. And now the reason that I can talk about my past is because I talk about my past. And I grew up in an era where you didn't talk about, you didn't air your dirty laundry in public. And now, people are more open than ever that they want to hear other people's stories. And if I can help somebody with my story, then, that's a blessing.
I love that. And we got Brian, who I love hearing comments like this, right? My son is adopted out of a very abusive family. It set him on a part of a service to others. And so when we have these challenging moments, definitely for those that have heard my story coming from a challenging environment of single parent kind of life and not being focused in my education, that has set me on a path to serve others in terms of exposing people to opportunity and education. And so, we know that Steve's story, right? Having been challenged as a youth to be, sort of reserved, to break out of that shell and become the master connector. So it's really a very big deal. Our stories do kind of lead us forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I love what you said, and I think some of the community put version of that quote, and maybe Cameron, you could put it up. But I love what you said. My past happened for me, not to me. Right there, it is.
Yeah.
Somebody else put it up there. Wade and April Hawk. That's amazing.
And Barry said he remarried his ex-wife, which I know that happened. So there's
yeah, no, I wasn't going to go there. But I think the biggest thing is that I had to forgive. Like I said, I had to forgive myself, first of all. And that took a lot of work. And then I have to say, too, that I think one of the reasons why I stayed in that lifestyle for so long was because I'm not very well educated. I don't have a college degree. I'm a high school dropout. I got my GED eventually, but I think that really held me back because I never felt like I was good enough. So I had to work a lot on my inside up here on my thinking process to say, you know what, I am good enough. My gosh, I survived out on the streets in that crazy world. Why wouldn't I think that I can survive in a business world? Or why would I think that my stuff that what I have to say isn't important enough? And so I really started to self-love myself, and positive affirmations were a big part of my beginning to get all the negative stuff out of there and put positive stuff in it. Positive, constant. My therapist had me cut these little pieces of paper out and post them all over my apartment, all over. They were everywhere. And I still do that today when I start having self-doubt.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, listen, that's why you and I click so well with this, because we are so now, you were out there. I was within here, I mean, and I know we probably all can say that too, no matter what, but my challenges happened. Okay. There was some, bullying and ridicule and all that. And boom, I isolated, right? But we all have our challenges. But like you said, right, you turn that into your strength. And, I like to say, our weaknesses could be our power, and a lot of those things that I was challenged with and happened to me became my superpowers today, right? Who'd have thought, right? The guy with shine introverted is now the master connector, right? It's crazy. So you don't have to dictate that, those things, those past events don't have to dictate our future, like we spoke about. But I'd love to move on to a kind of a next phase of this conversation. So I'd like our community to type in the word #over, OVER, and we're going to get in because, I think that there's a lot of us, and I listen for years and years. Okay, it took me until quite a long time, maybe only a few years ago, that to get over myself, right? And so, you in your case, right, you had a crazy past, right? How could someone get over themselves like you have? Right. And you started to touch on it with the self-talk and, forgiving yourself, but kind of you dig into that a little bit for us, if you could, Dana.
Well, I learned early on. I learned a lot of things early in recovery from my therapist, from other people who were in recovery. And one of the things that they said to me was that you have to act your way into right thinking. So I began to act as if I was a sober woman, act as if I had it all together, even when I didn't think I had it all together. And what that started to do was reprogram my mind to, think differently, because like for instance, writing the book, The Pause Method, that I wrote, by the way, it's not out yet. We're having some audible difficulties, whatever, nothing goes as planned in this world. I didn't think that I could write a book because my mind kept saying, you can't write a book, you can't write a book, you can't write a book. And then I said, myself, I am going to write a book. And I sat down and wrote a book, and I wrote a book. But if I would have listened to my mind tell me I can't do it, then I would have never even started with the first word and got, the book finished and accomplished. So yeah, I think I answered the question.
Yeah, no, you did.
Yeah.
And I can relate because I'm also in the process of writing a book.
Yeah.
And, for years, for a long time, I'm like, oh man, how is this guy who's learning disabled gonna write a book, right? So I think I'm in the same camp. I kind of program myself with those words and those, and Cameron, he's big on, every now and then I say things that degrade myself. He's like, stop doing that, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a tendency for us to degrade ourselves. And for the most part, I'm good, but I think sometimes.
Well, I think we all can be our worst enemies, right? We can all hold ourselves back. We can all say, oh no, I'm not capable of that. I don't have that experience. I shouldn't go down that lane. And sometimes, I think, and we talk about it on this show, act within your purview, right? Don't try to do everything.
Right.
But on the other side of that, if children say, oh, I'm not going to learn math, if I'm not going to learn reading because I'm good at math, right? It just doesn't make sense. And so, we wouldn't set limits on children, but we set limits on ourselves all of the time. And obviously a lot of people set limits on children. That's not a beautiful thing to do, but the idea that we can open ourselves and expand. I mean, we have great examples of people that are doing just amazing things, physical athletes that are running businesses. There's a lot of time involved with it, but the idea that you have that ability and that capability, don't limit yourself. Such a big deal. And I love
that. Yeah, absolutely. I truly believe that. It's funny you should say. Somebody asked me, well, what kind of books do you like to read? And I'm like, yeah, I don't read books. It's like, but you just wrote a book. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I don't read books. I mean, I listen to audiobooks, but I don't sit down and read books. I also have, if I was to go to the doctor, I know that they would diagnose me with some kind of attention deficit disorder for sure. I'm like a pinball in a pinball machine. Boing, 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 boing. I am all over the place. But, I'm able to focus and concentrate when I need to concentrate. But I'm a great procrastinator. I wait until the very end to do everything and then tell myself, well, I work better under pressure, which is BS, really.
I love that. A great procrastinator.
Procrastinator.
I think I might be tied for first on that one with you.
Yeah, I don't know because I'm good at it.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. I can relate. Listen, it's funny. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, "Hey, we've got a LinkedIn live broadcast, and we're also now we've actually downloaded most of the episodes. We might be, by the time you hear this, they might all be uploaded, and so we're podcasters now as well. And so the guy I was speaking to says, like, so what's your favorite podcast? I'm like, I don't have one. I guess mine, because I don't really listen to. I mean, I'll listen to them occasionally, especially if somebody wants me to come on their podcast, I should get some reference of it. But I'm not a podcast listener. I have other things I listen to, a lot of audiobooks like you, big time audiobook. And I can't wait for your book to come out on Audible, because I would love to get to listen to that for sure.
Yeah, I even had somebody say to me one time, they said, well, who's doing your Audible? And I said, I am. And they said, oh my gosh, you're doing that? And I'm like, yeah,
Absolutely.
Nobody can read my book the way I can read my book,
100%.
especially because there's so many personal stories in there that I have to use my voice and my tone and my, when I'm deep into something, I have to get serious. And when I'm being crazy, I have to scream. And it's very animated, I think. Yeah. I hope. I haven't even heard it yet, because there was, what's the saying? If you think God has a sense of humor, just make a plan.
Well, let me say this. I think it's always an impressive thing when you have the author reading the book, and it's usually a good thing, because I read, I'm on the same tip. I think, definitely Steve has rubbed off on me. I'm listening to more books on Audible than I'm reading, for sure. But one of the interesting things, because I'm reading listening to Carol Dweck's Mindset right now, and I think the only negative criticism I have about it at all is that the lady that's reading it, who is not Carol Dweck, sounds like a computer, like the computer sort of, you get, whatever your computer reading. Yeah. And so that's the only sort of turn off, because the information's awesome, but I would love it to sound a little bit more human. And so you get the professional readers that, they can enunciate better than Steve and I for sure can, right? But the vocal tone, the excitement doesn't always seem like it's there.
I think that people are going to really like it because I'm reading it.
Yeah.
That's more personal than having somebody else read it. And that was a big accomplishment, and so then it's like, okay, now what do? I wrote a book. Okay, now I'm being coached to be on a TEDx stage. Why not? And I talk about it in my book. I always wanted to be a model. That's every girl's dream when they grow up, well, not every girl's, but it was mine. I'd love to be a model. And now at 60 years old, soon to be 61, I'm going to pursue that. I'm going to pursue that dream. Why not? This is a big question that I say in my book, and I say to everybody. When you're thinking about doing something, connecting with somebody on LinkedIn, I hope we can start talking about that in a minute, because I'm a great connector on LinkedIn. But I always ask myself, why wouldn't I? Yeah. Anytime I have something that I want to do and I'm not sure about it, ask yourself, why wouldn't you?
Yep. Absolutely.
I can guarantee you will not come up with a good enough answer.
100%. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I so much agree, for sure. And we could touch on connecting. So let's have our audience, our viewers, our community type in hashtag connect. Let's chat about connect. Let's hear your take on it, because listen, I could always learn, and I'd love to hear what you're doing to connect.
Okay, well, I'm the director of inventor relations for InventRight, which is an educational company. We talked about it in the intro. And one of the first things that they tell you to do is start your LinkedIn profile and start connecting with people on LinkedIn, mostly in the consumer goods industry. And I started out 5 years ago. I had a LinkedIn page, but I wasn't really active, and I had maybe 40 connections. Now I have almost 5,000. And that is how, when I am reaching out, because I'm an inventor, when I'm reaching out to companies to do business with them, it's 100% LinkedIn. And I've learned how to connect with them in the proper professional manner so that I have a better response rate. In fact, I have another position for the company director of inventor relations, and it's my job to connect. And they call me the connector.
So, go figure, you're the connector too, huh? All right,
I am the connector. And sometimes it blows my mind, because I'm like, I don't even know how I do it. I think the biggest thing is, connecting on LinkedIn is, short, sweet, right to the point, no fluff. People who are on LinkedIn are business people. They want to know not what do you want, but why are you connecting me? Who are you? What you're asking for is the biggest thing,
Yeah, they want to know your motive. Is there an agenda? Are you real? Are you some kind of bot? Is there a pitch coming? They want to know. And so my biggest mindset behind connecting is no agenda, look to add value, not to sell, not to pitch, just add value. If you do that with the right heart and you really mean it, it's not a shtick or some kind of technique, but it's real. You'll grow your community, you'll grow your connections, right? For sure.
That's great. One of the best connections I got, I was doing a project with Stephen Key, the owner of InventRight, and he said, I need to get into this company and I need to find somebody that we can talk to on a project that we're doing. And through a series of just connections, I got with the vice president of the world's largest company that in the packaging industry. And Stephen's like, how did you do that? I'm like, I was just me. And I think that they can tell if you're not being true and, honest, or if you're being sneaky or manipulative. Just be yourself,
Be the best version of you. That's a big part of what we're about. Be authentic, right?
Did we go through how she takes the limits off?
Yeah, let's go to the next phase. So we want to do hashtag limits. Thank you, Cameron, for keeping us on track, on path here. Yeah. But we want to talk about limits, right? So hashtag limits to our community, and we want to talk about how do you take the limits off, right? I know for there's possibility thinking, and I would love to hear your perspective on that, Cameron. And Cameron, unless you have a different take on that.
No, I definitely love this, and I think we were talking about it before in the sense of we put limits on ourselves. So how do we truly do it? Even for myself, going back to starting Toth Event Staffing, and we're really busy now, and I was in my home office before the pandemic, and so after the pandemic, after hitting literally rock bottom, I'm now in another office. I have more employees at a steady rate than I did, at other times in my business. I couldn't even answer the question on what was the mindset, that allows me to do this stuff. Some of this is just like, I'm just doing it. And so how do you take those limits off, right? How do you, and you talked about your story, and I've definitely spoken to so many people. I feel absolutely blessed for not having to deal with some of the challenges that others have, even though my life has been hard and difficult in some ways. I haven't dealt with the extreme poverty, living in my car, being homeless. We've heard so many stories, including yours, Dana, that just are like tremendous, that make you feel so grateful for everything that you have, so many of the things that I can provide to my kids. But still, we limit ourselves. So how do we take those limits off?
I'm when you're talking about this, that's a deep question. I don't think I have any limits to myself. I mean, I know I'm never going to climb Mount Everest or go to the moon or anything, but every day I get up and my life is so exciting, and it's what's going to happen exciting today. I'm a believer in doing the next right thing. Just do like today. I'm very overwhelmed with stuff. I've been on vacation for a week, and now I come back, and you know what it's like when you come back from vacation and then play a whole days of my tooth just fell down. You got to play, a week of whack-a-mole and paying bills and doing whatever. And I'm a believer of just doing the next right thing. But I know my limitations, what I can do and what I can't do. But I don't have limits on myself. Because my mind I won't allow it. I won't allow myself to have limits.
Probably should have answered the question differently, but you're getting to it, which is not you, because you don't, right? But how could our viewers take the limits off? It should be how the question is asked, right? And so some of it sounds like you don't put limits on yourself, but anyway, keep going. I don't want to stop for you.
No, because I know what I can achieve and what I can achieve. And if the biggest thing is, I think fear is the biggest thing that stops us, that puts limits on ourselves. Fear. I write in my book, I'm not going to say it on here because we're on a podcast, but you can, face everything and recover. or you can F everything and run. And fear will steal your dreams. And I'm just not going to allow fear to control what I want, to put limits. So that's what I can probably say to the viewers is, look at the fear. What are you fearful of? And is it real or is it imagined?
Right.
A lot of times it's imagined. It's not reality.
Fear and faith are both imaginary things. They're just things based upon, nothing tangible, right? Fear is just something you think could happen. Faith is something you believe can happen, right? There's nothing specific about it, nothing tangible about it, but they're very much similar, but they're very opposite, right? So, but you have to have more faith than fear.
Asking myself too, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen? I mean, of course, sometimes, there could be life and death things, but I'm not going to put myself in those situations purposely. But what's the worst that can happen? I never have a good answer for it. So those kind of things, like, why wouldn't I? These are all these things that I've trained my mind. Why wouldn't I do something? What's the worst that can happen? And go through it, through the fear. Even if you have fear, go through it anyway. Because once you do it.
Feel the fear and do it anyways.
Yeah, feel the fear and do it anyway. Yeah.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Why isn't your show an hour long?
I think one of the interesting things, right, that you're talking about is this, leaning into that fear, right? And we've heard that, several times is, when you start feeling that, it's a good time. And I would say, that's definitely something that's led me with Toth Event Staffing, with the company that I run, the idea that, when something's a little bit scary, when a project, that's an opportunity for growth.
Yep.
Always an opportunity for growth. Yeah.
Well, we want to kind of get because we're getting to the top of the half hour and the show is getting towards the tail end, but we want to just touch on this pause method here. So type in community, type in the hashtag pause. Doesn't mean the show is going to pause. So don't be afraid. Get the limits off. But tell us about the PAUSE method, please, if you wouldn't mind, Dana.
Okay, I'm going to tell you a real quick story. When I was first sober, I was going through some crazy stuff and I was all nuts. And I called a friend of mine and they said, well, why don't you just put that on the shelf for a couple of days? We're going to forget about that for a couple of days. And then we'll come back and address it in a few days, 2-3 days. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do that. And when I called her back a couple of days later, talked to her, she started to talk to me about the problem that I was so crazy about. And I couldn't even remember what the problem was. And what I learned is that when I pause, which stands for postpone action until sanity emerges, I look at things completely different. And so I wrote a book called The Pause Method. And it just is little stories about how I've utilized the pause method in my life so that I'm not crazy. Because I react. People react. We act and we react to people all the time. You do something to me, I do something to you. You do something to me, I do something to you. You just sit back for a minute and pause. Maybe a second, maybe 15 seconds, a minute, 8 hours, 8 days, a year, whatever. But that's the whole theory behind the pause method.
I love it.
When we begin to pause, other people will begin to react differently and we will see things differently.
It's great. Yeah, I remember hearing, and this is sort of related, sort of not, but I believe it was Abraham Lincoln, and he was known to be the best, as far as his diplomacy and so forth. And they found the letter that he had written, and I think I got the story right, to a particular general in an army that did all the wrong things, and the letter was pretty scathing, but it was in his drawer and it never got sent. And he just said he paused and then realized, you know what? I'm not going to send that letter, right? He realized he wanted to, right? A lot of times we're just like, I want to do. I love what you said there. Just pause, take a breath, maybe let's sit on it for a day. You might feel different tomorrow about it,
Yeah. And when we react differently to people, they react differently to us.
Yep.
And that is a good thing. And I'm one that'll go from 0 to 1,000 in a second. We all do that. I would just want to throat punch somebody or something. Old habits, I guess. I don't know. But I just have learned to when I start to feel my heart go, my heart starts to race a little bit. The palms start to get a little clammy. It's just like, whoa, just pause. And there's this other thing that I do, second thought first, not my first thought. It's usually not the good one. Do the second thought first. There's all these little, in my book, there's all these little one-liner sayings and little stories that people can start to implement immediately into their life everywhere you go. Because I said, people, we react too quickly. We just react, and it's not good for us. It's not good for us. It's not good for anybody else, but it's not good for us. So that's what the whole
related to that topic.
podcast.
I gotta, I don't think it would be a show if I didn't throw out a book to you guys. So
yeah, there you go.
I'm in the middle of finishing re-listening to a book called Crucial Conversations. It's Kerry with a K Patterson. I know, knowing Cameron, he's going to put it up shortly, but it's tools for talking when stakes are high. And there's a lot of times where you need to pause, but also there's times you need to speak up. Mm-hmm. And this book is amazing on what to say, how to say it, because there's going to be times I'm probably guilty on the other side, Dana, where I've waited and I never get to do it when I know there's conversations that need to be had. Mm-hmm. So don't be the extreme. There it is. He's a magician, that man. But great book for really making sure you have some of those key conversations every now and then. And it doesn't mean always just pause and wait. At some point, you got to do something about it, for sure.
And I just want to bring up, I just want to say, I love the fact that Steve brought up like Abraham Lincoln. So, Abraham Lincoln, you can speak to a lot of different people that have these challenges that, I don't know where if you're watching this, Steve, Dana, where you put your challenges, but here's a guy that had a lot of weight on his shoulders.
Oh my God.
He's dealing with, brother fighting brother, war in general, right? We got the Ukraine situation going on now, and there's some similar sort of pieces there where you have family members, extended family members, country used to be a part of each other, but you have these people that are weighing these decisions and the things that are going on, and how much more difficult is something that's truly life and death. And then we put, our business stuff on our desk and we're getting upset, or, what the wife says or what the kids say, or I got a lot of things to do on my day versus, what some of these folks. And so I love listening to those stories because you really do get to put it in perspective and say, man, if this person over here could manage all this stuff and not get upset, how can I get upset? How can I deal with this in a way that isn't, really sensitive and caring to the people around me? It's Absolutely. A big deal, right?
And on the topic real quick, and then Dana, we're going to have you close, but I just want to mention, talk about hitting rock bottom. If you look at the history of Abraham Lincoln and all the challenges he went through, losing his sweetheart, and, he failed at every
children. He lost one child after another, right?
Every election he ran for, I think up until he got the presidency, I think he lost or something crazy like that. Just insane, the things he went through, but he persevered. And he's one of the most famous presidents, revered, loved presidents in history, right? So just an example of that. But anyway, just
and just loss of children. Just the stuff.
Yeah.
Forget the war, right? Within his own family, and then he's got
nervous breakdown. All these things. Yeah, depression.
And so really going back to like our previous comments, and just shout out to Chris Kehoe. Make each and every day.
I know Chris for a long time.
Make every moment count and always do the best you can, right? All of our folks that are tuning in, Antonio, Wade, Shen, everybody that's tuning in today, Barry, Val, Alexis, Yolanda, thank you for always being here with us. Everybody that's tuning in today, and Brian in the comments, thank you so much. Dana, close it out for us, and then we'll do our crush it piece.
Tell them the best way to reach you, and then we're gonna crush out.
Well, absolutely, on LinkedIn, Dana Knowles. Keep an eye out for my book. I'll be posting that whenever it comes out. I was hoping that it would be available by the time we were live on here. I just want to thank you for having me on here. Thank everybody who showed up. We can rewrite our story. That's for sure. We can rewrite it to be whatever we want it to be. And I believe too, that one of the reasons that I'm so successful in business and sobriety is because I hung around the people who were where I wanted to be. If you want what we have, you will do what we do. And so that's my end thought for today.
Love it. Love it. All right. Dana, we have this tradition of counting out here. And as we hold up our 5 fingers and count down to crush it, we just want to remind everybody that we have amazing sponsors. We want to shout out to them. So definitely want to shout out Wes with Sales Connector. So check out the salesconnector.com site and blaze your own trail consulting. Give them a Google. Get some great leadership on how to market and sell yourself online with social media. We have had just amazing results in dealing with our good friends that sponsor the show. So we appreciate that. And we want you to tune in next week, episode 81. Patrick Ward, a change of scenery can change your life. So same bad time, same bad channel. And here we go. We're going to count down.
Absolutely. And you brought the light, Dana. Thank you for doing that,
Thank
which is what we do here on the show.
Thank you.
Great job here today. And so make sure you check in, connect in with her. But let's count down here to crush it. And we're going to have a great rest of the week here. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Crush it! Go out there and have an amazing week, everybody. We will see you next week with Patrick Ward. A change of scenery can change your life.
Steve Spiro, you're a mentor, you're a consultant, you're a business owner, but most importantly, you're a host of your own show and you're also a master connector.
Steve Spiro is one of my idols, and I love listening to everything that he does. He's such a dynamic individual.
Some of the topics I really enjoy speaking on is how to really connect, whether it be in person or through social media. I love to lead with my weaknesses. I lead with, my vulnerabilities. It's fine because I'm okay with who I am. Number 2 is how to go from being inward focused, self-focused, into others focused. Being willing to give and go out there and look to serve. That will attract the right things. Another one is on leveraging LinkedIn to really grow your business. You could reach a lot more people. You could broadcast a message to people that actually consented to want to know you. And then lastly, overcoming big obstacles.
I love sharing. I was a shy, introverted kid, picked on, bullied, learning disabled, dyslexic, really in a dark place. I was really in a box, in a shell, and I've been able to break out of that box. And so I love being able to inspire people and really help them. So the Master Connector was born.
The world is my networking event, right? I meet people all the time. My goal is to meet 3 strangers every single day.
Steve is open to meeting you. You should set up a face-to-face with Steve. One little conversation can really change your life.